Okay, how you guys doing? Yeah, so Shema Steve here, founder and CEO at Exuus Limited. A little bit about my journey. So I started, at least my entrepreneurial journey started back in 2014. Yeah, so my journey started in 2014. So I just graduated from uni, had a more or less decent sort of, I'd call it unemployment. It started as a, it was more or less a professional internship. So the initial idea, by the way, is not what we're doing today. So the initial idea, was something to do with, land property taxation. So we wanted to sort of create an automated system that helps, the local government to collect land-related tax. So yeah, I had an idea with the background in geographic information system. Oh, by the way, I did geography at uni. Every time I tell this to people, they don't believe me, but I had nothing to do, no background whatsoever with software engineering or tech, so to speak. Knew nobody in software engineering, sector. I knew nobody, pretty much. Remy Muhire, for those who know him, he's been in this, in this field, or at least this ecosystem, for quite some time. So landed on him and then went straight into his DM and, say, hey, by the way, I've got this thing, are you interested in meeting and then discussing some of these things? And yeah, so he responded, positively. So we met and then we talked. I think at the time it was at KCT. So I told him what I wanted to do and how I wanted us to work together. He was all in, and then, we started. So we started with sketches, had my young brother, Frank, for those who know him, Frank Goga, designed the logo of whatever it is we wanted to do. I remember it was called Syncs. And 2014, 2015, that's when I started looking for money. So I had watched all these, shows on how to pitch, how to raise investment and all that kind of stuff. But then, so the whole of 2015 was just looking for money. And guess what? It failed. My brother recommended me, to some people. They were looking for a consultant to help them with a survey or research project where they wanted to sort of start. And surprisingly, this project was on, savings groups, mapping savings groups across the country. So he told me you have to do this and that. I remember I had to write a proposal, technical and financial proposal, which I did. Then the lady I was in touch with from that organization would ask me things and then I would respond quickly. Something I feel like, we should learn, at least as far as, entrepreneurs or professionalism is concerned. Promptness is really key. Promptness, whether you know something or you don't, at least try to be prompt. If you know something, say you know it and you get it delivered by a specific time, and then respect that. If you do not know, just say the truth as well, and then respond promptly. Yeah, so I did it, and then that's how I got introduced to savings groups. Before then, I didn't know savings groups existed. I only knew tontines, or ibimina as we commonly call them. And yeah, so started working on that assignment and came to love, or at least fell in love with the savings groups. And one of the reasons I fell in love with the savings groups is the impact these groups were having in the communities. So how that happened, it's a story I like to tell so that people at least, because I feel like whatever it is you're doing, if you're an entrepreneur, you've got to have this personal attachment or connection with whatever it is you're doing. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time. So make sure whatever it is you're doing, it goes beyond just, facts or business opportunities, but then there's that emotional attachment. Like you love it, you understand it, and then that, for those that have watched Transylvania Hotel, I think that's the name, I guess. I don't know, maybe. It's called a zing. So you've got to have this zing moment. And so that's when it happened to me. So we were visiting one of these groups and, I had never seen the setup. It's a circle. So they sit in a circle on a given afternoon, 3 p.m. or so. And then you've got lots of women and then a few men here and there. And then they start calling out each other. They first start with the closing balance of the previous meeting. And then from there, what they do, now everyone comes in with their savings. Now, I was fascinated by that because, some of these people are just saving 2 coins of 100, so that's 200 running francs. And then I was like, okay, this is interesting. So after the meeting, I had a quick chat with one of the ladies, and it's like, okay, what is this? I mean, what does this represent to you? Because I was really curious to, and then the lady told me her story, and then that's when my zing moment happened. And her story was that in her entire life, she never believed she would afford a loan of 5,000 London francs. Now, when she told me, I was like, my head, I was like clicking, like, okay, how long does it take me to spend 5,000? It's just, But then she went on and told me, like, yeah, I never believed I would afford it. So one time, one of my friends in my community approaches me, and she convinced me to join one of these groups. She told me, like, just come, see for yourself, you might be shocked. So I joined, and then these people are saving 200 francs every other week. And then time to time, people ask for loans. And then when I came, I was like, 200, it's okay, I can afford it. So she went on and then saved. And then after that, what happened is she applied for a loan of 5,000, which she got and then paid back, and then went on to get a 10,000 loan, that's double, and then on and on. Now, by the time we were meeting, she was telling me that actually now she had gone to a level whereby a group can no longer satisfy her needs, so she was looking for a loan of more than 200,000. And then now what was the most captivating moment was when she told me that not only she has improved her financial resilience, but also she has gained more value within her community. She told me that before this, I was just that wife who stays at home and then does whatever it is the husband says or asks me to do. But now that I can go back home with something, I can buy bread, I can pay some of the bills at home, I can buy shoes for my kids or pay even school fees, that my husband no longer looks at me the same, because now I'm looked at as somebody who contributes, in the well-being of our family. Not just my husband, by the way, but even in the community. I feel like I have a say. I've gained some form of value just because of this. So this is what this group represents for me. And that was it for me. That was it. And I was like, this is what I should be doing, So the initial part, what we're supposed to do, I was supposed to just coordinate the research project. So that's what I was supposed to do. And after that, collect the data, clean it up, and then hand it over to some other companies that were supposed to come up with what was termed as, a digital map for all these savings groups. So when we were about to finish, when I was about to finish the data collection, I felt like, I looked at that company that was supposed to develop the digital map. I was like, but we can do it. Well, I had zero experience, but I felt like we can do it. Entrepreneurs, that's just how we think. And so I approached the organization that had hired me then. I was like, by the way, now that we're almost close with the phase 1 of this project, how about we also take on phase 2? Because I think we can do it. And then they were asking me, have you done this before? I was like, no, I haven't done it before. But then they're like, there's things called procurement. So procurement is like, okay, so procurement requires that you have prior experience in this specific, field. Like, no, I don't. It's like, yeah, that's a bummer. So like, okay, that was it. I was like, okay, fine. So for a moment, I feel like, that was a lost opportunity. Now, a few weeks later, that's when I think the boss then, she's a lady, I really thank her for believing in me. So what happened is, before she was getting ready to go for Christmas holidays, so I approached her and was like, by the way, I've got a suggestion. And you have nothing to lose either way. So how about you guys are going for, it was what, a 10 days holiday? So if you're going for 10 days holiday, how about in that specific period of time, I gather my team and then we work out something. So by the time you're back, we present it to you. If you like it, maybe you consider giving us the contract. If you don't like it, in any case, you have nothing to lose. So it's a loss on our side. And she's like, are you sure you can do this? 10 days for something you've never done before. That's just too much of a risk. I was like, yeah, it's okay, we can do that. Funny thing is, I was talking about a team that I didn't even have. So all this was in my head. So okay, fine, go ahead and then do it. So this is when I approach Remy and I tell him, you know, before then, you know, he was more of a consultant, you know, he was doing things and then I'll pay him. But this time I was like, by the way, do you mind if we take it a notch higher? So now we become partners. And it was like, how? I told him, okay, there's this opportunity. I mean, it's a 50-50 chance, so we can get it or even lose the whole thing. The only thing we need just to come up with a prototype. If we buy within these 10 days, we have a prototype, we get a contract, and then we become partners. And obviously, thanks to you, Remy, for believing me as well. So Remy said, okay, fine, let's do this. Now, none of us had prior experience in that specific field. So we went on and then, you know, did it. The funny thing is, the day before the actual presentation, the lady emailed, was like, are you guys ready? I was like, yeah, we're ready, yet we weren't. Nothing was working. I remember that night, where it used to be called Razmana, so that's where we didn't have an office. So we went there and then we were, you know, trying things out here and there. It wasn't working, so they had to tell us to go because they were, you know, closing. So they closed, said we had to move and then to go to another place. I think we went to Canberra at a time. For them, they closed at midnight. At midnight, nothing was working. So there's one guy we were working with. For him at the time, he was married. So the wife started calling, and then at some point he's like, you know, guys, I think I need to go. So he left. So midnight, they closed there as well, and then we had to move. So the idea was that we go in a bar, because at the time, bars would work overnight. So we went in there, and then when we got there, I was like, I told Remy, in any case, I'm doing nothing, so let me just go home. Just let me know once it works. I think he texted me at around 3 in the morning, so he didn't really sleep at all. He's like, it's working now. So we met at, 6? He had to go home quickly, shower, and then come back, and then took about 2 or 3 Red Bulls. So we went for the presentation, and guess what? It worked out, and then we got the contract. Yeah, so that's how Sev came to be. So we had sketches here and there, we worked on it, and by the way, the designer-in-chief was, again, my young brother, Frank, who was doing all this for free. Not for free per se, but it was on a loan basis, because we didn't have money to pay him then. Now, Alex from ICT Chamber calls me and then he's like, hey, we have some potential investors that are here from Japan. How about you come and pitch? So before then I had done like, I don't know, hundreds of pitches. So I was more or less fed up. And then he calls me, I'm like, okay, in any case, I have nothing to lose. I'm frustrated and all that. So just show up with nothing, no pitch deck, no laptop. I'm like, you know what, in any case, I've been doing this, doesn't give me, no result whatsoever. So I got there, and then that's how I met a guy called Takuma. So they asked me, okay, where's your pitch deck? I'm like, I don't have it. Okay, they were shocked at first, like, okay, you come in here to pitch and then you don't have a pitch deck. And I told them, no, I've been doing this thing, I don't know how many times, so I have it in my head. So if at all I'm to interest you, or if I told you to make any decision, that should be enough. I'm like, okay, fine. So already when it started on a very negative note. So it's not like I was expecting anything from there. So I start talking about what I'm doing, savings groups, you know, how they're informal, what they do, blah, blah, blah. And then Takuma connected because he had previous experience from the Gramini Foundation, which has been involved in such a kind of structures. So he picked it up and was like, this is what you're doing. I was like, I get it. So okay, fine. So after that meeting, we stayed in touch, and few weeks actually after that, that's when we closed our pre-seed round, which was 50,000 USD. And man, that was good. That was really great. I mean, we felt like we had just survived, you know, one imminent death, at least for the startup. So we thought we had reached there, and then so we signed. I think we got our first, we got the money around April. Then we went back to the NGO that had denied to pay. We said, now we don't want you guys to pay for anything. Let's just pilot. If it's successful, you know, remember the other thing we did back in 2015 with the Savings Group Smart project? If it's successful, then you can pay. If it's not, you won't pay nothing. We signed 3 NGOs. We were able only to start with one, which is World Vision, and obviously CARE. So World Vision and CARE, those are the ones we started with. And we piloted, and man, the 50,000 we thought was a lot of money in just about what, less than 6 months. Again, back to square one, we ran out of money. So we were in a very critical situation, and that's when I think that's one of the mistakes, of the many mistakes that I made. Desperate in need of money, so we signed this investor, which I regret we shouldn't have signed. So sometimes, again, this goes back to entrepreneurs. Try to avoid money as investment as much as you can, because sometimes this money can kill you. And for me, that was the moment it was about to kill me, because I felt like I only needed money without necessarily taking into account the person was giving me that money. Did he understand the vision, what we're trying to achieve with what we're doing? So that's when we signed, and part of pre-seed, but it was a mixture of convertible and no, rather loan and equity. So we did an extra 30,000. So then we pushed for whatever it is we were going to do. The pilot was successful, and then we felt like this is it. And then Takuma, my good friend, then put us in touch with some other big investors. I mean, this was Yamaha. I mean, you know Yamaha, right? So we felt like this is it. I mean, we are becoming the next unicorn. So yeah, what happened then is we started the due diligence process. That's 2019, beginning 2019, we started the due diligence process. It took long, man. Japanese, they take their time. It was, whew. And me being naive, I never thought of coming up with a plan B, you know. It's just, you know, me being naive and stupid and all of that. So it took months, you know. The 50K, we had run out of 50K, 30K was just coming to the end. Remember, part of it was a loan, so we're supposed to pay it back. And so yeah, the due diligence never ended. And that was 2019 around April. So we ran out of money, started getting loans from friends here and there just to keep the company afloat. And towards, I think, June, July, now we really ran out of money. So that's the date between, you know, May and August. In that specific period, I think I hated the 20th, the period between the 20th of each month to the 30th. Because that's when bills would come in. That's when my guys would expect me to pay them. And I knew we had zero, or even less than that, you know, like we had less than 100,000, 50,000 in our bank account. And everybody expected me to pay. And that was, man, that was a nightmare. And pushed the Japanese, nothing was coming through. And one of my investors, the one that I regret to have, you know, brought on board, you know, even started sort of sowing doubts in whatever it is I was doing, because like, this business is not going to work, it's not going to fly, you know, it's just a waste of time. I even actually, he was telling me that he regretted the fact that he invested in us, you know, and that's, you know, the stress, the frustration and all this kind of stuff was, you know, driving me crazy. And, you know, and then around August, that's when I was like, you know what, I think I need to make a decision. So that's when we sort of suspended our operations, because we had run out of money. I wasn't, you know, some of my guys would call me, we need to pay rent, you know, our landlord is on our case, because they would spend 2 months without being paid. It was just crazy, you know, it was just too much. And then, so one day I call my guys, tell them, you know what, guys, it's sad, but I think we now need to suspend, you know. I'm working on a few prospects here and there, but for you, if you get any other opportunity, feel free to go. Feel free to go, I'll be fine with it. But then, so we suspended pretty much, it's like we closed. You know, I just kept one guy who was a back-end engineer, was just making sure the system is up. And then, yeah, so that's what happened. 2019, that's the year ever since 2014, my balance sheet turned positive, because, you know, I had been broke ever since then. And I got my first salary in, I think in October, if not November 2019. So yeah, so that's a bit of my story. I hope it inspires somebody out there. And obviously this is part of the process. And what kept me going despite all the challenges is that zing moment. That zing moment is key. If you don't have it, just don't waste your time. Looking back, you know, all those years where we're at now, it's something to be thankful about. My colleagues, my team, my partners and all of that. And obviously the ecosystem that's sort of evolving in Rwanda and beyond. So yeah, so Peace out, signing out. So that's it.